Hey everyone, welcome into a fresh Mental Game podcast. Sam Brief here, home studio in Chicago, and thrilled to welcome back to the podcast one of my favorite guests from season 1, Freddie Stevenson. He is the author of Trials to Triumph, the book, and now the producer and the subject of the film Trials to Triumph, which is available now on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, really everywhere as of May 2nd. Freddie Stevenson is an absolute star and is so motivational. Just to tell you a little bit about his story, and you'll get much more of it in the podcast and even more of it in the film when you watch it. But Freddie grew up in extreme poverty, so much so that after his father was incarcerated, his mother, his 4 siblings, and of course he were homeless. They didn't have a home to live in. They had to scrap for food. They had to scrap for diapers, for everything. And Freddie learned a lot about the human condition and a lot about what it means to struggle and to get out of that. Because he did get out of that. He went to Florida State University. He went to school. And he started as a fullback on one of the best college football teams in the country. Then he dabbled in the NFL, but his career ended a little too early. And he had a crisis. Who am I? What do I do? And he rededicated himself to telling his story because he knew how inspirational it was. Writing the book that I read last year came out in 2019. And now this film that amazingly is on some of the biggest platforms in the world. So Freddie Stevenson is a gem of a guest on the Mental Game podcast. It's his second time coming on. If you want to pause it and watch the first episode, that was episode 38 back in season 1. But for now, here we are with episode 2 with Freddie Stevenson, starting now. Welcome back, my friend.
And I appreciate you having me, man. It's always love, and I'm looking forward to getting into things with you.
Yeah, me too, man. You inspired me, and I know firsthand inspired so many on this podcast when you came on a couple of years ago. And now, since we last talked, you have become a published author. You have become the producer and subject of this film that's going to be on some of the biggest platforms in the world. How does that all feel?
And it's crazy just thinking back to everything, thinking back to the book when I started everything in 2019. I originally launched that book just to specifically help out athletes that were struggling with their transition, just because I was a person that saw my career come to an end before I expected it to. And just not being prepared for life after ball and going through, depression and just not really knowing what was out there. And at the end, I found my purpose at the end of that journey. And I just wanted to tell my story to help some athletes out there that may be struggling, young, older, whatever the case may be. And the book, it took on a life of its own. I just remember 2 years after I published the book, it ended up catching crazy momentum out of nowhere. At this time, I'm thinking like the book's going to be a flop, but like 2 years later, during the pandemic, the book just takes off, and you have people from all backgrounds falling in love with it, people that weren't even sports fans. And that caught the eyes of some Hollywood producers. And we started, we signed a deal, we inked the deal. I was in talks with Netflix at first that never materialized. Then I inked the deal with another company. We got this thing done, and we finished the project last year, put it out independently. It's crazy, like a few months after we put the film out, a company, Gravitas Ventures, they have a lot of Oscar award-winning films that they put out. They reached out and they wanted to distribute our film worldwide. And it's crazy to me at this time because we didn't put it in any film festival. So I'm just like, wow, like this is crazy how everything is just coming together at the perfect time. And my first project, it was a full circle moment for me because after football, I didn't really feel like I had a purpose. And then to see after, when I launched the book, seeing that 2 years later become a bestseller, then my first ever project in the film industry, it gets picked up for worldwide distribution. It's like, okay, now I'm realizing that everything happened for a reason. I'm doing what I was meant to be doing from the jump.
It's amazing, Freddie, and I couldn't be happier for you. People spend their whole lives trying to get the attention of these Hollywood producers and Apple TV and Amazon Prime, and now you're on there. It's absolutely incredible. And of course, I read your book, which I've got right here, Trials. I got my blur for those of you watching is sort of affecting the zoom. I'm going to turn that off for a sec so you can see. There we go. Trials to Triumph, Freddie's book. It's a beautiful piece, and your film has the same name, Trials to Triumph. So I'd like to start there, Freddie. I know a lot about your story. I'm not sure that everyone watching or listening to this does. So why is your book and why is your film titled Trials to Triumph?
Yeah, just ultimately my story, not just my story, just a lot of the people, when you look at the film, a lot of them have so many different obstacles that they had to overcome just to get to the points where they're at in life. And I truly believe just in life, all of us, man, our life consists of a lot more failures than it does successes. And just behind the scenes, I took so many losses behind the scenes that people don't even know about that prepared me for these wins that are being broadcasted to the world. So just being vulnerable in front of the camera and just sharing those stories with the world and just seeing how it's making an impact behind the scenes. Like we have a few Hollywood critics that are doing reviews on our film, and one of them already they're like, man, this is absolutely one of the most well put together documentaries I've seen in a while. And just hearing that from them, that's going to come out in a few weeks once we release it. And then another one, I just had a interview with them last week. Like, man, we don't usually see sports documentaries take the angle that you've taken with your film. Everybody wants to broadcast their successes, but really what you highlighted throughout the film is how you were able to overcome all of those trials. And that's one of the biggest things we wanted to do, especially with the cast that we have. We got guys like Tony Gaskins, who's one of the top motivational speakers in the world. Marius Bernard, who's been on General Hospital for 30 years. We had an opportunity to connect, I think like 3 years ago now. He brought me on his platform to tell my story, and it helped my book with sales a lot. But anything I needed, he said, let him know. I wanted him on the film. And we got another guy that's a star of the film, Delvin Bro. I believe he's the first ever player to play in the NFL after breaking his neck. He broke his neck in high school, fractured a few bones in his spine, and doctors told him that he should have died on the spot. He never played a down of college football and went on to start for the New Orleans Saints in the NFL. Like crazy inspirational story.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. We got a lot of different people coming in to share their stories as well. Some of my family members. I know from reading the book, about the cheeseburger story a few years back. That went viral, and that's ultimately how the book became a bestseller, and that's how we got here with the film.
And Freddie, I want you to tell that here, because when you first came on the podcast, before I had even read the book, I didn't know too much about your story. That was the hook for me that made me say, wow, okay, he has been in a depth that when I look at my life, I haven't been to, right? I think for so many people, when they watch motivational stories like yours or read about them, they try to apply it to their lives. And I couldn't find anything in my life like that. So if you could share that here, the story about the cheeseburger.
Yeah. So early in my childhood, my father was in prison, and my mother was stuck with the task of raising 5 kids on her own. Times got hard. She's working 2 to 3 jobs, and trying to make ends meet, and got really, really hard for us. And one day in particular that stands out to me, it's like 8 in the evening. We hadn't eaten all day. My baby sister's crying, and my mother just gathers everybody up, takes us to McDonald's. She gets there, orders a cheeseburger, and we're looking around, all 5 of us, all 5 of the kids. Worst case scenario, she give us all like a loaf of bread, get some help. Like worst case scenario, we all get our own individual loaves of bread just to eat for that night. So it's like, okay, we got one cheeseburger to share amongst the 5 of us. How is this going to work? But we didn't know that she only had $1 to her name at that time. Struggling paying for the diapers of my sister. It was tough. And I just remember the total coming out to $1.05. And the cashier, for some reason, was being difficult. She wouldn't let my mom get the cheeseburger without the nickel. So my mom went around McDonald's and asked for a nickel. Somebody loaned it to her. We're kind of embarrassed at this time, but she gathers everybody up, gets the cheeseburger, takes us outside. As we go outside, she starts slicing it up into 5 pieces. It hands it out. And at the time, we're not thinking, we just start eating right away. But as we're eating, my older sister notices, and she offers my mom a piece because she notices that my mom wasn't eating. And then we all looked around, and we started offering her a slice of ours as well, and she turned it down. She burst into tears, and that moment just stuck with me. It was kind of it's always been my motivating factor throughout anything when I wanted to give up. And I don't know, that story, people heard it and it just took a life of its own. I posted it last year on Facebook, I believe, and within like 2 days, it had like 20 million views. And yeah, I've taken it down now just because once the film got picked up, kind of had to, start over with the promotional marketing campaign. So hopefully it does the same when I post it. But that story, every time we post it, it takes a life of its own.
You mentioned Freddie. It's an incredible story, and I thank you for sharing because it hits at a lot of human nature and a lot of what it means to struggle and what it feels like to struggle. And you alluded to how you thought of it later in life. Like, let's think about you as a fullback for Florida State, or you now as a successful author and someone who has this film coming out. In moments of triumph, how do you use that trial that you went through at that McDonald's to keep you motivated?
Yeah, I mean, no matter how I get in life, it's always there. You never want to go back to moments like that. And for me now, it's seeing how my mother was able to just sacrifice in that moment. It's like, all right, I want to be that type of parent, like just displaying that type of strength and being able to sacrifice for your kids. And at the end of the day, making sure that they're straight. Now that I have a child of my own, but also understanding that I don't want my daughter or my daughter that's coming later this month, my second child, I don't want them to
Oh, you got a second coming later this month.
Yeah, later this
month. Oh, sorry to interrupt, but that's interruptible. Yeah. Congrats, Freddie.
Thank you.
Girl dad ×2. Woo!
Yeah, it's a blessing. But yeah, I never want them to have to experience moments like that. So before it was just always thinking about what my mother sacrificed. But once you have people that you're responsible for, it's like, okay, I don't ever want them to have to experience moments like this. So although I was already on 10, it's like 10 to the max. Like, let's put a 10x on that 10. Like 100 times what I was doing. I was already a hard worker, but when you're responsible for somebody, it turns it up a notch.
Right, and you saw that through your mom.
Yeah.
Now you're on the other side. What's a lesson that you've learned as a father, soon to be father of 2, but right now of 1? What's a lesson you've learned that makes you think of your mom in those days?
Yeah, just the biggest thing is just seeing her, a lot of things, the sacrifices that she made. You realize like it's uncomfortable. A lot of things she probably was tired of. She wants to relax and enjoy herself, but at the end of the day, it's about those kids and making sure they're all right. Some things you may not want to do. Coming up, like some friends and family, you may not want to work a certain job, but at the end of the day, it's like if it puts money on the table for right now while you're still chasing your dream, you have to sacrifice for those kids because at the end of the day, they didn't ask to be here. So you have to make sure that you give them every single thing that they need in order to survive. And that's one lesson that I learned from her.
You went from being homeless with your father incarcerated to playing ACC football to then ending your football career before you thought and now remaking yourself and being so successful in the telling of your story. Freddie, I want to flash. There's so much there. I want to flash to the point of stopping your football career, right, which you said was too early. And I know that you had the crisis that a lot of people have of, hey, my identity was tied to football. What do I do now? Who the hell am I? What was the most difficult thing you experienced in the first couple weeks after you stopped playing football?
Yeah, for me, the first few weeks weren't the hard part because I'm thinking like I'm going to get on a team. It's like I know what I can do. I know the type of camp that I had. I know the type of film that I've always put out. But it was when I continued to have workouts and they weren't sticking. And then I had a workout, I believe, I think it was with the Lions. And by this time, they're asking me things about what took place in Chicago. And I guess there's kind of a dark cloud over my head saying that I had character issues. I don't know if it's because everybody expected me just to make the team because I was the #1 fullback coming out of college. Or if there was a bad narrative being painted about me, but a few teams that started saying that. And it was crazy to me because I was always like coming out of college, that was like the biggest check marks next to my name. High character guy, team captain, leader. And throughout the draft process, one thing that all the scouts do and all the teams, they do a lot of research. They dig deep. So for me, they were going all throughout the facility. And they do this for every player. And I remember throughout the process, every team was like, man, did you pay these people off? Because everybody we've asked can't say a bad thing about you. And so to fast forward, and now everybody's asking if I have character issues. I don't know. That was just something that was frustrating to me. And it was completely out of my control. And I don't know. But as the years went by and I was just bouncing around trying to find a home and nothing really stuck, I just became, frustrated and not started to feel like, even though I knew that I was a Pro Bowl caliber player, you're human. So at some point, you're like, am I good enough? Like, what's going on? And I didn't know who I was outside of football once I just decided to let it go. At that point, I was like, man, if I can't make these teams after the camps that I'm having, maybe this isn't for me. Or maybe I'm meant to be doing something else. But just dealing with that reality once I set out to do it, it was tough because football is all I ever known. And I just didn't know who that person was looking back at me in the mirror. And it was scary to try to go through that process, that self-discovery, just trying to figure out who you are, what you want out of life, how you're going to get there.
I'm really curious about the looking in the mirror, because you said you looked in the mirror and you didn't know who you were. Do you think that's because you didn't take the time to develop that or think about that while you were in the middle of football, right? You're such a tough schedule as a student athlete, then NFL. So was it you didn't invest in that before, or was it just really was your whole identity and you had to figure out what else there was to Freddie?
I think the tough reality of making it to the highest level of sports and being elite, the elite of the elites, is everybody says have a plan B. But people that have plan Bs, they're not successful in their sports. That's just the reality.
Bingo.
So when you don't make it and you didn't really have a plan B, now it's tough to transition because in order to be elite in your sport, you had to turn away all the distractions, all these other opportunities that presented themselves along the way that really would have helped you in life after ball. But now you're stuck because you don't know how to get back to that point. And that was the toughest part for me because, like I said, I put everything in. I was all in with it. But somewhere along the lines, I was like, man, listen, I was never the most talented player, but somehow I found a way to be one of the top ranked players in high school. I wasn't the most talented player in college, but somehow I found out how to be number one at my position. Then I make it to the NFL after being, homeless and going through those obstacles. So if I can do that and overcome all those odds, if I apply myself to my craft, then why can't I do it in this entrepreneurial world? Like, I can do it. It's just about changing that mindset and shifting my focus now. So it was tough figuring it out at first, but we made it work.
I love your thoughts on the plan B. Right. People who have plan Bs often aren't successful. I think about that, Freddie, a lot in my life because, I'm pursuing this play-by-play broadcasting, and I've got a dream to make it to the very top, and I work my ass off to make it happen. I don't have a plan B, right? I'm not like, I'm working on the side as an accountant, and if I don't get to the big leagues by age 30, I'll be an accountant, right? No, I wouldn't be able to make it if I was spending all my free time accounting. I don't think I'd be that happy if I was spending all my free time accounting. And my uncle's an accountant, so they're nice people. But point is, you didn't have a plan B. So I'm curious what you would say to someone who is like in your position, but maybe a couple years before, hearing all those things and wanting to set themselves up for life after football or after baseball or after dance, whatever it might be.
Yeah, the reality is, you have some guys that there's no chance that they're going to play at the highest level. So maybe they start working on their plan Bs earlier. But some guys, that is truly a possibility. And for those, I'm a firm believer in going all in and laying it all out on the line. And even if it doesn't happen for you, along the way, your purpose will reveal itself to you. Like for me, I laid it all out on the line. And I did right by everybody along the way. So once my purpose revealed itself for me, there was a line of people that were ready to help me out and help guide me along the way. Like, man, Freddie, if you need this, let us know. If you need us to push this or promote this, let us know. If you need us to get you in contact with anybody, let us know. So I truly believe, like, man, if you believe you can achieve, you have the skill set, the talent to achieve it, go all in. Like, shouldn't be a thought of a plan B in your head. My problem was all of my plan Bs, and it was a good problem. All of my plan Bs and life after ball plans, they were dependent on what I did with my plan A. So it's like, all right, we get this plan A accomplished, and then we figure out what's next after that. Everything builds off of that. So I wasn't thinking about a plan B, and I think for anybody out there that you set a goal, if you want to create a film, like, go out there, like, anything that you need to do to develop your filmmaking skills, all of these things, all the research that you need to put into it, go all in with it. People may call you crazy. They called us crazy when we told them we're going to get our film picked up. The reality is, if people aren't laughing at your goals, then they're not big enough. I'm a firm believer in shooting high, and even if you don't get it, you fall a little bit short. You're still high. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a firm believer in that. Aim high, and even if you don't get to where you want to go, you're still a success compared to where you were. And that's what I say to anybody that has a dream. They have the gift, the ability. Shoot, don't think about any plan Bs. Kobe Bryant wasn't thinking about what he was going to do outside of basketball. And if he was, he wouldn't be Kobe Bryant. No different than Michael Jordan and these guys. And yeah, they went on to be successful businessmen, but it's all because they were dominant on the court and people just wanted to work with them. So the reality is, if you go all in with your plan A, then the plan B, C's, D's, and E's, they work themselves out in the end.
That fires me up, Freddie. It really does. I mean that, because you need to be all in to make some lofty goals happen. And something that I would add to what you said that I can see you do, I do, and many of the greats do, is while you're pursuing that goal, fall in love with the process. Fall in love with it. I see you've been in love with the filmmaking process, and you were in love with the writing process, writing this book I've got here. Because if all your goals are just results oriented, I want my film to do XYZ, I want my book to sell this many copies, well, then you're staking your horse to the opinions and the purchases of other people. But if you fall in love with the process and love writing a book and love making a film and learn and get invigorated and meet people and live through doing that, then you're living your life. Then you're really accomplishing your goals, no matter what. No matter if 10 people buy your film or if 10 million people buy your film. So I'm just going to add that to what you said, because I can see you as a model for that model.
Yeah, it's just look at Alabama, the years they had that drop off. It was a few years back. They were winning all those championships, and Saban said they lost that hunger. They lost the hunger because everybody was telling them how great they were, and then a lot of guys got away from the process.
Rat poison.
Yeah, they started believing that they could just show up and that they would win. I love hearing, the people that say you can't do anything. I don't take it personally. Like, that's, as a competitor, that kind of gives you that chip on your shoulder, that drive. I love hearing things like that. And it's not also always people just doubting you. It's just sometimes when things are unfamiliar to people, they know what they know. So I don't take it personal, man. I always find different ways to keep a chip on my shoulder, regardless of whether or not people believe me in me or not. Like, I feel like when you're playing anything at a high level, you have to find ways to motivate yourself and keep yourself on the edge so that you can drive and achieve these goals at the highest level.
And now you're at the highest level of film. I mean, you can go and watch Freddie's film now on places like Apple TV and Amazon Prime. You're in the big leagues, Freddie, and I'm really curious, from your perspective, what's it like to see your story told in such a professional film context, right? This is the Mental Game podcast. Let me inside your mind here. What is the mental game of looking on a screen and saying, wow, okay, that's my life being portrayed?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me right now in this phase is because I put in so much work, I expect the success to come. So now for me is understanding that a lot of the things that come aren't normal. It's a few people in the world, that get to achieve these things. Like when you get to the top of your profession, don't, even though you put in all the work, you deserve to be in that spot, celebrate yourself as well. And that's one thing that I'm learning to do a lot more. I put in so much work, and I just get to that point. And like even in college, it's like when we were winning national championships, you celebrate, but then it's like we put in so much work, we expect it to be there. But now it's like, no, you gotta celebrate those moments. You know how many few people get to experience a moment like this in their lifetime. So for me, I made the whole entire film process a celebration. Um, we had a private showing and everything, just with friends and family there, just to enjoy that moment. And it was surreal, man, just experiencing that moment and knowing everything that had taken place. And for me, getting to that point after I was playing ball was bigger than anything that I had ever accomplished in the sports world, just because I had to find my identity and, rebuild myself all over again, like from the bottom to the top. And it was a little bit tougher just because, where I grew up, everybody's an athlete. So that's kind of a given. You put in the work, if you're good enough, you make it to the top. But then in this world, it's like nobody in my area really does this. So it's like you don't really have anybody to go to for advice. So you're kind of just figuring out things through trial and error. So through that, seeing things come together when you didn't necessarily know if you were doing things the right way, it was a blessing. And I just wanted to celebrate those moments.
You should celebrate. That's why in baseball I love bat flips, and in football I love end zone celebrations. Because, yeah, okay, there's the old crotchety people saying you should act like you've been there before. But sometimes you haven't. And Freddie, you've never been here before. You've never produced a film, right? This is new to you. So you deserve, on any occasion you want, to put both hands in the air and go, woo! Hell yeah, I did that. So, Freddie, I really want my listeners not just to watch this or listen to this and say, oh, that Freddie guy seems like a nice guy, pretty motivational, cool. I want them to watch your damn film and read your damn book. So let's start with the film, because that just got released. Tell me why we should all watch this.
Yeah, I know this is one of the most powerful films that have dropped this year. And I've been getting confirmation throughout the process from some of the biggest names in Hollywood. We're well connected in that space now. One of the guys that filmed the film, he's working with Warner Brothers now. So he's been there, I believe, like 5 years now. But the guy that put the project together, he left them. He was there for 20 years and he wanted to branch out and do his own thing. So we have guys that are well connected in that industry. So just a lot of the people we've been sending the film out to, they've loved it. And the critics have been singing high praises. And I truly believe it's a film that no matter who watches it, no matter what background you come from, no matter whether you're from a person that comes from humble beginnings or you're a person that, you well off, I feel like they're all going to be able to take something from this film. We got people that are at the highest level of their profession, that money isn't an issue for them. They have everything that they need, but life still happens to them, and they struggle with their mental health, and they've had to find ways out of dark places when they can go into a store and say, I want everything. I can have it all. And a lot of people think when we have money and, we can get all these different material things, that it takes away the pain. But the reality is life happens to us all. And sometimes when we have money, it just makes those problems a little bit bigger, to be honest. So those people that are struggling and they're just trying to find a way to continue to push, we got stories for days for people like that, stories like mine and others. Then those people that are at the top of their profession looking for an edge, or they're dealing with things behind the scenes that they don't want the world to know about. I feel like no matter who watches this film, they're going to be able to find something that absolutely changes their life. I look at this film and I truly believe we got a classic. People will look back at this film in 30 to 40 years and they'll be able to come and watch this film and be inspired and take something away to impact their life.
Freddie, that's so well spoken. And the purpose of this film, of course, on the surface level, is tell your story and inspire others. But on that secondary level, it's what you just alluded to, which is for people to take it back to their lives. Help make the world a better place through your story. And I see the smile on your face there. And I really hear it in your voice how passionate you are about this. So I'm excited for this to spread around and become the great success that it's going to become. And I want to leave with this, my friend, because I really see life as a series of decisions. Right? Every day we live, the decisions we make, whether it's who we spend time with, what we do, what we eat, those all add up over our life and create the life that we live. So for you, take me to one decision you made early in your life. I'm talking before you even stopped playing football. A decision in your life that was really important that you think helped shapes the man you are today.
The one decision and it kind of came from my father. It's kind of, we didn't talk about it. My father's a pastor. Now he's changed his life around completely as well, and he'll be in the film. A lot of people have fell in love with him, a lot of people that we show in the film. But the biggest thing is no matter what, you finish what you start and never quit. And it's a cliche, but I remember in high school, I committed to Florida State, and I was planning on taking other visits and things like this. And he was like, man, are you trying to decommit? Like, I told you once you commit to Florida State, you had to make sure that was your decision, because a commitment, you have to honor your commitment. And with anything that I do, like, that's been ingrained into my mind. It's like, once you start something, you have to finish it. And if you're going to put something out there, if you say you're going to achieve this, all right, you said it, now let's make it happen. So I just remember, like, throughout the process, even after every ball and things, I would just put different things out there, speaking into existence. And people would think I was crazy. I remember a few years ago, I was tweeting, and I was like, man, I'm going to get LeBron and them to notice the film one day, his brand, and then uninterrupted his brand. They followed me on social media. I was tweeting at them every day, like, it's going to happen. And then one day I was like, I'm going to get McDonald's I'm going to partner with McDonald's someday. And then they did some things for my back to school bash. And I truly believe at some point down the line, they're going to partner with me on a larger level. But when I say something, it's ingrained in me. Like, I have to make it happen now. I have to make it happen. I'm not going to be a liar, and I'm willing to put the work in until I see it through. And that's one thing I learned from my dad. Like, you commit to something, you don't stop until you see it through.
It's an important decision. And it sticks with me that when you were young, you made the decision. Whenever I commit to anything, I will commit. Capital C. No plan B, C, D. I'm committing. I'm all in on Florida State. I'm all in on making a film. I'm all in on making it a smash hit. I'm all in on writing a book.
Yeah.
I'm all in on becoming a father ×2. That's Freddie Stevenson. And Freddie, I can't congratulate you enough for the success that's to come with the film, for the birth coming soon of your new baby daughter, and for all that you're accomplishing, my friend.
Likewise, man. I'm looking forward to watching you grow, travel the world, and tell your story, because that's ultimately what you're doing in your field, man. Telling your story each and every day and living out that passion. So I'm excited to see you grow, man. Every time you bring me on here, I'm excited. I appreciate you, man. The energy is infectious. And like I said, man, I'm looking forward to watching you grow as well, and I appreciate you for being a friend.
Thank you, my friend. That means so much to me, and I hope that everyone who's a fan or a listener of this podcast falls in love with you and your story by reading about it and by watching it. So, folks, that's been Freddie Stevenson, a great, great friend of the program. Freddie, we'll talk soon.
Appreciate you.
Hey everyone, Sam back here in the studio. What an awesome conversation with Freddie Stevenson. He's a star, right? I mean, this is a guy who has been to the depths like I haven't, like most people haven't. And now he's telling his story and inspiring others. And I really think that if everyone can take a little bit from Freddie's story, right, what it means to struggle, how you get out of it, how you think about something, how you pursue something, then we can all make the world a better place. That's what it's all about, right? So Freddie Stevenson, of course, you can watch his film on Apple TV, on Amazon. You can get his book, Trials to Triumph, on Amazon, one of my favorites, and I really hope you enjoy it. Everyone, remember, I'm running the Chicago Half Marathon in less than a month, June 4th, right here in the Windy City, and I'm looking to raise funds for Lasers Ladybug Society. If you're a regular listener of the podcast, you know how great John and Renee Laser are in raising funds and exposure for mental health programming across the country. So please help support us. I'm so close to my goal of 2,000. And if I get to 5,000, maybe I'll run the whole damn marathon in October. So please support me. The link is in the bio to the GoFundMe. But for now, this is the Mental Game Podcast. I am your host and producer, Sam Brief, and I can't wait to chat with you next time. And for now, adios from Chicago.